Hi, hello. If you're new here, my name is Rain. If you're not new here, welcome back. I really appreciate you stopping by in my little corner of the internet. And we are on my bedroom floor for the first time in ages because we're going to go and redo my video from maybe a year and a half ago now on my favorite art books of all time. And that goes for education, what I keep at my desk and general workspace, the books that I admire the most, artists I really like, and that's because this week's art video kind of blew up, like literally kind of blew up on me, because I was trying to do an illustration that was paint pen exclusively. If you're completely new here, I usually do a marker base and then do paint pen on top. I wanted to try and work exclusively with paint. My paint pen blew up, multiple paint pens blew up, and it's created this weird texture. And so basically it's like glossy, if you could see that. And I'm getting further from my mic, I'm sorry. It's glossy and the paint pen isn't laying over it, so the black blew up and then the skin color blew up. And I'm generally frustrated. I'm not a painter, so it's really just not been going great anyway. I've been having a hard time building up the layers I usually do with marker first, and so it's been generally unpleasant. It is currently 6 p.m. on a Thursday. My videos go live on a Saturday, and I go to bed super early because I am a senior citizen. So I don't know what to do about this. I have been wanting to revisit this topic because I have so many new art books in my collection from a year and a half ago when I first kind of originally started collecting them. And I have new thoughts as well. So generally, this is going to be a chill on my floor video because we love that. And we're going to be talking about art books my cats will be walking through as they desire, because my cat door to access my bedroom is right next to where I'm filming. So there's that. Last thing, you are on a very janky tilted tripod thingy that sucks. This thing sucks. So if I remove my weighted axolotl, this has a bunch of beads in it, you will fall over, so this head is going to be in our way because this is the only thing keeping you from completely going that way. So these are my knees, and I think that was all of the disclaimers, the explanation, why we're doing an art book video this week. And I think we're going to start with my favorite educational art books first. So let's get into that. Not my thickest stack. This is probably my medium-sized stack. I have my top 4 art books that I don't keep at my desk for the end of the video. Then the books I keep at my desk are probably like almost my favorite of all time, but like not quite favorite of all time. And they're either because they're reference books, educational, or I really like the artist, so I like to look at it very, very often. But I don't follow that artist or regularly get their content on social media. So we're going to do education. Then we're going to do my desk stack. Then we're going to do general favorites. Then we'll do my top 4 because there's some education in my desk stack, so they'll go correctly. But my general education number 1 pick is Richard Williams, director of animation, Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Yeah. The Animator Survival Kit, manuals, methods, principles, and formulas for classical computer games, stop motion, and internet animators. Wow. And I like this book, not because I'm an animator. I can't animate to save my life. And I know because I took animation. Is my ring light making this glossy? No. Cool. I like it because it introduces you to concepts that are necessary for animation, but really important for illustration. And these are simple things like tempo, right? The way that we exist, you know? The contact with the ground, the step down, like pushing upwards, and then the next step, right? While this is necessary for an animation to not look weird, it's nice to think about for illustration because it tells us all the information we need to know for standalone illustrations, are you actively thinking when you illustrate something and somebody walking that they're going to be shorter in this frame because they're taking that step forward than when they're actively pushing themselves upward? Is this a character you draw regularly? It helps with posture. It helps you to think about the way that people move. And for me, it's really beneficial to think from the, thank you for choosing my sketchbook as your sitting spot, see? That's really appreciated. It's helpful to think about how to also incorporate movement into your piece to make something feel interesting and dynamic. And I really, really like it, and it gives a lot of ideas on how to make a character feel just so much more. And so I really like it. I did take animation in my undergrad, but I didn't do anything particularly complicated, and we were not required to do a walk cycle. So there's that. So I have the expanded edition. I really, really enjoy it, and I think that this is a really good educational book that provides a lot of insight on, wow, I am exclusively opening to pages about walking. It provides a lot of insight that is valuable for thinking about the way that people exist and creating dynamic characters. So that's something I really enjoy about it. Plus, maybe you'll want to animate one day. Then, I really like creating stylized characters. A lot of my books are 3D Total Publishing. I have a lot of cats, so everything is covered in cat hair and cobwebs. So I like this because, one, I do not create designs that are like this. A lot of my characters are very human in nature, but it helps to think about color theory and creating designs with interesting shapes that allows for you to, even if you don't design things in any of the styles in this book, think critically about the way you choose your color palette and the way you approach the overall valuing of a piece to create something that's visually dynamic and intensely interesting for a consumer, and the impact that different color palettes will have on the way a piece looks overall. So I really, really, please don't step on my computer, bud. I really, really enjoy this book, and especially from a color palette perspective, because that's one of the things I struggle with the most, but also shapes to characters, gestures, movement, expression, personality. I think this is a really, really good book. Please stop stepping on my computer, bud. I need that. That's what my audio is being recorded on. Sorry. My son Jekyll likes to sit on everything that he should not sit on, and nothing that is cat safe to sit on. So, I really, really like this book. I think it is incredibly valuable. And I want to actually probably reference it a lot more than I actively do. So I probably should. Then Art Fundamentals 2nd edition. I don't own the 1st edition. I just own the 2nd edition, I think. It's not in my stack, and I pulled basically the majority of my books off of my shelf. So I don't own the 1st edition. I really like this book because I technically did go and take art classes in my undergrad. I did get an undergraduate art degree. However, I think that it is a pretty useless degree if you aren't planning to do something that requires you get that degree. And that is a very kind of convoluted path, and it's very hyper specific to you and who you are. I want to be an art director or an art teacher, and so I am required to get a master's of fine arts. I got my bachelor's degree in art, studio art, and botany. And botany was my initial and original degree. I hope that tapping's not too aggressive, but it was my original degree. And so it becomes a kind of complicated discussion of, is this a necessary degree? Is an art degree necessary? Will it be better than no degree for a large portion of getting a career? Probably, likely, yes. A degree usually means higher pay rate, even if you're not in a career that is related to what you got your degree in, because that's just how our world works, at least in America, which is where I am. So that is how it is. Then, additionally, I didn't learn really anything in my art degree prior to my master's, and that's because, one, I was self-taught prior to that, so a lot of these art fundamentals I got from books like this, and then I took the courses on how to do the thing I already learned how to do because it was required. And so I really think that books are, that's a bit of a complicated piece. God, Here we go. Here's something good that I can use to like articulate myself. So when it comes to art education, there are a lot of ways you can approach it. I am somebody who is do first identify a problem and then pursue the education. And I think that's largely because it's hard to understand where you have gaps in your perception of the world until you have made the mistake, especially when it comes to art, because we aren't going to just pursue art seriously and understand out the gate. However, we probably have some experience prior in our life, whether it was as a child, where we have some intrinsic understanding of art, whether we're aware of it or not. And the other education we have in our life may alter our ability to actually improve in certain directions and fields. So I'm kind of fail first, figure out second. And so I utilize books like this to identify those issues, right? I'm a beginner in this scenario, right? I'm a beginner. I am looking at a piece and it just feels wrong, okay? So I go to the index and I say, what is it about this that is actually feeling wrong? Is it the light and the shape? Is it the color? Is it the way my piece looks on the page? Is it the perspective? Or is it the anatomy? And if I don't know what these words mean yet, I go there and I go to that page 90. Page 90 is going to tell you, we're going to have dead weight in this video because I don't get to just yap my heart out like I usually do. Oh my gosh, can I turn page? Well, I wasn't there yet anyway. It's going to tell you what it is. Composition. Page 90, 91. A brief blurb. And then we're going to talk about the tools, the golden ratio. And if this doesn't really get you exactly what you need, if this isn't enough for you to understand or quite grasp what composition is, Google it. Google's our friend. We can Google whatever we want whenever we want. You know, the world isn't stopping us from Googling the definition of a word. Composition, art, meaning. There you go. You got it. So then I will take the book. I used composition as the example, but we're in the light and shadow section because I'm smart like that. And we go through, and they have really good examples, the highlights, what a reflected light is, rim light, core shadow, the base shadow. And then all of these definitions, conclusion, something you're supposed to gather from it. And I love the work in progress images. I really like this book. I think it gives you enough information about the fundamentals, and you don't necessarily need to go through this book like it's a course. One thing I do recommend, though, is if you are a beginner and you really want to take learning it seriously, but college isn't for you or you're not sure about it, get a syllabus from a local community college or college's website on their Introduction to Art course and follow the assignment list by Googling what that assignment would look like online. 10 out of 10 experience. Really helps. Imaginative Realism by James Gurney, who, I don't know what Dinotopia is, but he's the creator of it. And I really like this book because it was one of my first introductions to making something that isn't real look real. And I really, really like the approach to, one, making his process look accessible. This is all of the information on what he utilizes, what he recommends, helpful equipment, all of this stuff. And it really makes getting started with something that you admire really accessible. And I really appreciate it. And I really appreciate that in an artist. We do not gatekeep. And okay. And then it goes through kind of just the step-by-step process. Loosen up. How to be gestural in your art. Thumbnailing, creating those initial ideas, developing stories, and then it just goes through the entire artistic process, thinking about colors, thinking about the corrections, the space, and ethical tracing. We appreciate someone who discusses situations of ethical tracing. And so I really, really like the way that James goes through the process of making it feel accessible to make the unreal real to us. And I really appreciate that. And I find this book more inspiring. I use it less as like an educational guide. Wow, I'm just pulling up architecture. There we go. I like the way he approaches the educational process and kind of exploring his thoughts, how he went through it, how big they are, the ideation when they're from. I really appreciate that. I really do. And this was one of my first art books I ever got. And I feel like it really gives you a lot of everything you need to know. It gives you materials, it gives you the thumbnailing process, color theory, enough. It talks about the importance of silhouette, the ability to understand information without actually having color or the kind of inner lines. And it talks about the importance of master studies, cars, history, people, dinosaurs, creatures, all of this stuff. And I feel like it's really, really, really accessible. But then he also has a section on careers that I really appreciate. Well, it is probably a little bit more outdated now because this book is from 2009. Okay, I was wrong. I did not know. Because this is from 2009, it is probably a little bit less accurate now just because the art sphere has changed a lot with social media. However, it does still have some good information about how these skills are important to the real world, and I appreciate it. Then we have Drawing with Imagination by Bert Dodson. And I really like this because it has a lot of fun exercises on how to kind of loosen up, doodle. It encourages you to be, hi William, it encourages you to be creative without fear. Doodles, playing with shapes, and I think it really loosens up the mind, and I appreciate it. So I feel like it really, really helps to make art feel fun again, I guess would be the way I articulate it. But I also feel like it's sometimes really hard to be creative in a way that is attention grabbing. And this book helps to provide ideas and insight on how to be more creative with the way we think about even the simplest of things. And I really enjoy it. I don't have a lot to say other than I really think that this book is incredibly helpful for just loosening up the mind, loosening up the wrist, and all of that. Then I do have a beginner's guide to Procreate. This was back when I used Procreate. My iPad is dead now, so I don't really use it anymore. However, I did utilize this book to figure out basically everything that I know about Procreate. And I also have this one, a beginner's... Oh, there's different authors? I thought these were by the same people. Sorry, one second. It's A Beginner's Guide to Digital Painting in Procreate by Mark Ulicheni, Simone Grunwald, Aveline Stalker, and Sam Nassor. And then A Beginner's Guide to Digitally Painting Characters in Procreate by Antonio Strappers, Jordi Lasabre, Fatime? Blue Birdie. I will take an easier to pronounce nickname any day. And Olga Andrinenko. I don't know if you could tell, I don't know how to pronounce people's names, and it's usually not something I do. This teaches you how to utilize Procreate, the tools, and masks, color, lighting, and things like that. This is how to create interesting characters through digital painting. Gestures, tips, tricks, color, lighting, but from a character perspective. And I still think that this book is incredibly valuable even if you do not use Procreate. This one has some great tips on how to create interesting characters just in any kind of digital art. It's just very specifically Procreate tools that it teaches you. However, I find that this is incredibly helpful for showing you kind of tips and tricks to be a better digital artist in general. It's just Procreate oriented. And I just remembered I have an entire other bookshelf that I kind of completely forgot about, so I have to redo all of my stacks. So we're going to talk about color and light, and then I'm going to go figure out if I have any more educational art books I recommend off the top of my head. I don't utilize these books quite as often because they're the educational art books I keep out of my room. These are the ones I keep out of my room. These are the ones I keep in my room. So I deliberately am looking for information if I'm grabbing these specifically. I'm not utilizing them as references or checking on them super regularly. But the next one is specifically Color and Light by Charlie Pickard, D'Amelia Knopf Guise, which I have another, I can never pronounce her name. I do have another book by her over there. It is her art book. And then Nathan Falks. This one just discusses color and light. And it is actually probably the second thickest of all of these educational art books. So, of course, the one on color and light is almost as thick as the Animator Survival Kit. But color and light is so intrinsic to art. A lot of art, at least. And I don't get it at all. I suck at color theory. I could tell you a lot of information about color theory. However, I find that nothing I say ever really kind of encapsulates all of it. So I mostly have this book for the color. Hey, it's the book I have. I mostly have this book for the color aspect of it and less the light. However, it really is important and helpful to have breakdowns of light. It's just I kind of understand light a little bit better. And I kind of understand how to make good light a little bit better. I'm still not super good at it. Like, I definitely can't make art that is this dark with such a bright focal point look amazing like this is. However, I am able to take a lamp and set it up with items in front of it and understand how the shadows work, identify the rim light and all of that. Moderately fine. But as soon as it gets to, like, mixing colors and colors next to colors and making a cohesive color palette, I'm done. I'm gone. I don't get it. I just fumble until I do it. And so I really chose an interesting and weird page to open to. But it really goes through everything that you could ever possibly want to know about color and light. And it breaks down masters, like masterworks, and how the color and the light is kind of in the piece. And I think it's incredibly helpful to understanding that information and making it accessible. Like, I don't know, it's all in one place. And so basically I'm kind of a give me a big book and I'm able to identify what I need to know or what I need to reference at any given time. Where is the... There we go. Right. I'm able to open this and I'm able to, like, read through the table of contents and identify what I want to know and what I need to know. If you're somebody who, like, gets really overwhelmed by this, Google it. Google a YouTube tutorial on how to do these things. I'm kind of a stagnant visual person. I like to learn by kind of trial and erroring it with references. I don't like to follow step-by-step tutorials because I feel like it dilutes my own creative voice and identity when I'm actually kind of in that moment. So that's just a personal preference. So if you were looking for, like, everything color and light, I really do recommend this book. I have found it incredibly helpful and beneficial to me in particular in identifying this. Oh my god, it has been 21 minutes and I have only just now gotten through the education section. Oh wow, this video is going to be 10 years. I am so sorry. But all of my videos are long. So we'll try and speed run through the fun stuff because it's less like me trying to tell you why this is beneficial and everything else is like, I like it. So I did actually end up finding a book. I totally forgot I owned it because I bought it before I migrated to Clip Studio Paint. I referenced it. I read through some of it. And then I put off getting Clip Studio Paint. And then there's two more which go into this pile over here. So, Beginner's Guide to Digital Painting in Clip Studio Paint by Devin Kurtz, Simone Sims, Simone Ferrero, aka Sims Mumechi, and Nimrod. We love it. Okay. This is basically a beginner's guide, but it's for Clip Studio Paint, the one for Procreate. And it's a little bit less like fun art in a lot of places, but it's just the Clip Studio Paint version basically. So it shows you the hotkeys for this program. I'm gonna be referencing this a lot more soon, but I am still trying to like learn the program as somebody who does digital art and did digital art, and then identify what I don't know and use this book for that specifically. I also think this is a fair bit older than the Procreate one, and so that's probably why it's not as like snazzy. But either way, it does what it needs to do. I did really learn a lot of good information when I initially went through it. I just really hardcore forgot about it. And I'm mostly probably going to be using the manga and webtoon section. I just still have not gotten to it. So, yeah, I do recommend it if you're a Clip Studio Paint user. I just got the Procreate one first because that was my original program. And I think they do the same thing, just different programs. And I like the art in the Procreate one maybe a little bit more or pretty equally. And so it's like, pick which one you want. It really doesn't matter. It's only really important to do the shortcuts for Clip Studio Paint if like this is your sole program and this is all you care about and you don't care about the art. Choose this one. I feel like things change in Clip Studio Paint a lot more and are a lot more customizable in Clip Studio Paint. Like you can make things do things easier. Like you can customize your shortcuts more. So the book is kind of less relevant to me if I'm not trying to figure out something specific. I don't know if that makes sense, but because I plan to customize Clip Studio Paint and have been customizing it to a very particular workflow that already existed, I'm less like, teach me how to use it, and I'm more like, teach me how to do the basic things that I already want to do. So that's my stance on this. We're going to move to my general favorite art books. One of them might be technically educational for like 1 second, and then we're going to move to this deck. So we're not going to go through the entire general favorite art books. I'm just going to pull one book from it because I realize it's probably technically going in this section, and that is How to Become an Anime Style Artist. And I just really like almost every single artist in this book. Prior to this book existing, I followed Maiko, Charles, Dalmal, Laura Gris Miuli prior to this book coming out. And so I like all the art. And frankly, yes, tutorials, case studies, and advice from industry professionals. I don't necessarily expect to ever be an industry professional. I think I kind of understand that making a living exclusively off of my art is probably not something really suited to me. I'm more of a be a professional and maybe sell art on the side if I can type of person. I know if I let my self-worth be tied to the work I create, I would fall apart entirely. However, I feel like this book is still incredibly valuable for specifically how to be a successful anime artist, running conventions, having a business, taxes, marketing your art a little bit, and generally just kind of selling your work. And it's anime style artist, but I think it really does a good job of capturing art styles that aren't quite your standard typical anime. So I have this because I like the art and not as much because I am looking for the professional advice. However, I do think it does a good job. This is just not the career path I'm suited towards because I would destroy myself. So that's that. And so now we'll move on to this section, and I'll try and make sure to do the educational book first. I think I only have one. No, I have two. Okay. We'll start with the two educational, so these sections are bleeding a little bit, but the timestamp will change like right here. I talked for a pretty long time before realizing I didn't turn on the audio recording software, so that's super cool. But I also fumbled a lot, so it's also kind of cool. These feet should be visible like right here. if he leans into frame and cuts things off, this is his house, and I simply live here. So he gets to decide the laws of the universe. Right, bud? Yeah. So, first book is Draw Amazing Faces by Pipo Santos. I already had a very developed art style when I got this book earlier this year. This is just because I really, really like the art, and I like to look at how other people break down their own art style as a way to kind of think about different ways to educate people, if that makes sense. Because I was self-taught and then I got my education, I learned the way I learn and figured it out myself. And then I also kind of learned the strict streamlined educational method. However, I feel like that streamlined kind of college education method is really not helpful for a lot of people, and specifically in the creative world. It can be a little bit, my cat is looking at me like I am boring him to death. What? You don't have to sit here. You can go anywhere else if I'm bothering you. But I feel like that method isn't necessarily good for everybody, and so I really like to focus on getting as much information on how other people approach teaching other people their thing to try and make myself as well-rounded as an educator as physically possible, if that makes sense. So I have this mostly for the art, but also to learn other ways of teaching the same concept. Then I have Taco's anatomy book. I have the bigger one somewhere, but I really genuinely have no idea where it is right now. And the shelf that I usually keep the books in my art space on has been collapsing because it's actually a shoe rack that I'm using as a bookshelf. And so it's really not structurally stable enough to hold all of these books. But Taco's anatomy book is my go-to anatomy book. I probably own 10 to 15 anatomy books throughout my entire space. I've unhauled and gotten rid of a lot of them. These are the anatomy books that I keep, and you can tell that I use them a lot and keep them in my space because the edge is literally lightened from being in the sun too much. This is the normal color. This is where the sun has completely bleached it. So that's super cool. Love that for me. Anatomy for Artists, Drawing, Form, and Pose, The Ultimate Guide by Tom Fox Draws. This one helps break down the bones and the muscles a little bit more. Taco's bigger anatomy book goes into a lot more. It's maybe twice the size of both of these books together. So like 2 of these, and then maybe a little shorter. So it's really thick, and that one has no English translations. This one does have English translations. The other one, which I think came out before this, is just their native language, not in any English. This one I feel like has a lot more written information, and generally it's like, okay, I don't quite get something, I go here. And this one does, I think, the human inner instructions a little bit better. So this one is a little bit more stylized. This one's like baseline information, like you've never drawn a person before in your entire life. Here is every single information you can ever gather about the human form. Suffer. So I like this, especially the foreshortening section. Sketchbook Masterclass, Drawing Basics and Beyond. I once again bought this book because I really, really like the art style and a little bit less for the educational component. However, I really have been having a hard time with my sketchbook. I really hate this sketchbook I'm in right now. It's a slog. It's one of the sketchbooks I've been in the longest just because I don't want to use it. I'm literally working on separate pieces of paper and then moving it into my sketchbook because I hate working in this big sketchbook. So I might actually have to unhaul my bigger sketchbooks and just work on big paper if I ever have projects like that, because I'm just not compelled to use it ever. So I really like this book. It really gives a lot of good information on how to have a more creative and interesting sketchbook, but I got it because I really like the art and less because I want to have a more interesting sketchbook. The sketchbook is your space, and so it's kind of just whatever. Anime Architecture by Stephen Reckles. I can't pronounce names. This is just a compendium of architecture and anime, basically. And I really, 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 really like it. Architecture is super not my thing. I don't get it at all. I can't draw buildings. I suck at perspective. So I really like it just because I find it really inspiring. So I keep it at my desk because I like to look at it. I like to pull up all of this stuff that makes literally no sense to me and just absorb it. I probably will move it into my room kind of soon if I find myself reaching for it a little less. And this does take up a lot of space. It's a thick book, so there's that. Aliza, The Art of Aliza Ivanova. One of my absolute god artists. I love Aliza more than anything. And so I generally just really, really, really like her art. I keep it at my desk because I like her art. However, I feel like she has a very interesting creative journey and creative process. And I find it very fulfilling to sometimes just open her book and read information, the stuff that she's written, and just kind of absorb her kind of knowledge base because I find it inspiring. I really like the way that she articulates herself, and a lot of art books that are a solo artist, I feel, have an educational component where it's teaching you their style. I could never be Aliza. I wish I could be Aliza, but I could never be Aliza. So, or Eliza. It might be Eliza. I've just always called her Aliza because, like, her book has the fancy font that looks like two E's. It's probably Eliza. I just can't say her name, so. I really, really like her art. She's one of my idols, so. I've never heard her talk, but there's that. And this book is well loved. It is damaged right here because I open it so much and my nails are kind of, ugh. Are these in the order I wanted them in? Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. We'll do it like this. This is the art collection of Daisuke Richard. I own this one as well, and this one. So, I clearly like Daisuke Richard's work. Completely different style from me, and that's part of why I like it. I do not have a standard anime art style, and one that's kind of as flat as this. And to articulate what I mean by flat, there aren't a lot of super intense lighting elements in Daisuke's work, right? But even just these simple shadows create such a dynamic, interesting feeling. And even when the lighting is an intense lighting like this situation, it's very soft and pleasant. I really like Daisuke's style. So this is one of the pages I have marked as a personal favorite spread. I really like this concept. I kind of want to do my YouTube manner like this one day when I inevitably make one instead of having my own photography up there. One that's kind of two characters looking at each other. But I really like Daisuke's style. So I have 3 of Daisuke Richard's books on my desk. And I feel like it's kind of important to keep artists who you don't draw like at your desk for kind of perpetual inspiration. So that's 3 books in one. Yay. We'll go with this one next because this one has some not appropriate work. So we'll go through it kind of quickly. Terada Katsuya, whom I have another book by in the other pile. This is just a lot smaller in terms of physical size. So I keep this one at my desk. Are the pages I have marked appropriate? Or are they all boobs? Well, here's an example. I really like Terada Katsuya's style. Once again, it's very different from mine. It has a very sci-fi, steampunky feel to it. And I also like the way he's so unabashed in the way that he just scans his work as it is and just puts it in here. However, I love the dorky ideas. I love the panels that just really just go off the page. It's not about being formatted. It's about showing you the art the way it exists. And I really appreciate that about this book. And one of my favorite artists. Then, oh, this is a piece of an illustration I tore up for a project. Okay, that's cool. 2 of my all-time favorite artists in the entire world. I keep them at my desk because I wish I was them. is Greta Lusky and Wayfinder. I love Greta Lusky's work. I love the way they color. I wish I could color like them. They are my traditional artist idol. I wish I was able to make color look so good. Like, I desperately wish I was this cool. I'm just not. Also, silver shiny edges. And then this book does not have this dotted pattern. This is paint that I've flicked across my desk because it's literally in the line of fire when I'm working. One of my artistic idols, but my other artistic idol is Feeful. And Feeful is the artist who made me realize I can be a scientific illustrator in a character design format. So my specialization in botany was mycorrhizal relationships and parasitic fungi. And ink caps are one of my favorite species. And the way that Feeful just makes character design and plant life so dynamic and gorgeous is just, it's so good. Their character design and plants are so amazing, and this is kind of what I aspire to be one day capable of in terms of my artistic development. However, I'm not really good at this whole like head bleeding into body thing. So when I do a character that's inspired by something, I usually don't just make that their head because I'm not cool enough to actually pull it off. Really, why are you yawning? I'm interesting. How dare you? Z says I'm boring. And he said it rudely. So basically, I find this super, super, super gorgeous, and I love their style. So this is also at my desk, and this is also in the line of fire, so it has the paint splotches. Luckily, Z is not sitting on the pile that I need to be accessing next. So we're going to go to the books that are not at my desk and are among my favorite, and I will pull those right here, and then we'll do my like top 4-ish. So give me just a second, because I need to make timestamps. New problem, my phone's about to die. So this week's video has really just been an exercise in, are your eyeballs unevenly shaped? My cat's eyeball is a little smaller than the other one, and it's like, has a straight line on top, and the other one's much more curved. Wait, straight line, curved. Anyway, got distracted. My phone's about to die, so I'm getting distracted. So another book by Terada Katsuya. This one I don't keep in my desk because one, is taller and won't fit in that shoe rack thingy. And secondly, I don't really know how meltable the glue of a book binding is. And so I'm just generally kind of nervous to keep it with the spine pointing the sunlight. Or, and the lighting in my art space kind of comes from all angles because it's an open kind of floor plan living room kitchen scenario. So I generally keep it in there, but I feel like this one does do a little bit of a better job filling the space. Immediately opens to a page with a bunch of blank space. And I find it really, really interesting. Once again, I just really love Terada Katsuya's work, so that's why I have so much stuff by them. Gui's The Art of Gu Zhang Wei, can't pronounce names. We're gonna just kind of move on from that because it's embarrassing. I really, really like her art style. And I really, really like the way that she has dynamic lighting, but it's not super, like, bright, super kind of intense, super saturated stuff. A lot of it is more muted and natural, or, there we go. Okay, kind of muted and natural, and I like the painterly effect. You know, this background looks super detailed, super interesting. However, if you look at it closely, you can see that it's not actually super rendered, you know? She just uses shapes and a painterly effect to communicate the background. And all of the focus is just kind of on that character in terms of the actual kind of development. So I really, really like the way that her art style kind of prioritizes the character while still having visually interesting backgrounds. I have Vision's illustration book. My phone is going to die, so I will be cut off and then we will return to this situation. I have the 2021 and the 2023. but I generally just felt the need to only bring one out because they look the same. They are just really large collections of a bunch of different artists, and so these books are just a treasure trove of anime art style stuff that I think have various... Oh, wow, it's Gooey's. Wow. What are the chances I'd open to this? Various different kind of art styles, different artists, and I really like these collections because it allows you to get a bunch of different inspiration all in one place, and so this is a great place to think of new subject matter, and that's generally kind of where I'm at with it. Hello, Hyde. Hellbore, The Art of Miss You Pacey. This one's a bit newer, actually. I got this one earlier this year as well. Miss You Pacey is one of the artists I have followed my entire Instagram life, and I really, really like the pinup art style. However, I know recently she's been talking about wanting to get away from the pinups. I'm really interested to see where she goes with this, and I'm really excited to see how her art develops outside of pinups. However, her pinups will always be something I love, so if she returns to it or doesn't, I will always support the pinups and whatever else she does. I love her style, I like her coloring, and I just love her, okay? I just love her, okay? That's the problem, is, like, this deck is just artists I love. Prism, The Art Journey of Cosmic Spectrum. I also have Cosmic Spectrum's graphic novel. I haven't owned this that long. I've owned the graphic novel a lot longer. However, this is the source of one of the inspirations for if I ever am in a situation where I get to kind of print my graphic novel. I really want to do pages like this, where it's like semi-transparent. And so for my page where Loki is getting displayed as time goes by post Ragnarok while recovering, I really want to have the base illustration and then multiple pages kind of building up the flowers and stuff that you kind of just like take away or add. I'm not sure how I want to do it. Maybe like something kind of transparent or like a shadow box kind of thing where it's like multiple layers and it's cut into. This would be like if I could be a successful artist and like make enough money selling a book to be able to do that. Never gonna happen because the graphic novel is a master's project and I am just a weirdo on the internet. But that would be like my dream. Like, my dream design would have these kind of semi-transparent pages with flowers and borders. But I really, really like Cosmic Spectrum's art style, the way they do faces, and the character design element, especially the watercolor aspect. I really admire watercolor artists because I just do not get it at all. So, really love Cosmic Spectrum's work. I've loved them for a lot of years. One of the artists I fell in love with the earliest in terms of artistic journey, and I think they really inspired how I draw hair, even though I didn't do that on purpose. But the wavy, excessive kind of hair that is just super intense and very dynamic is, I don't know, I feel very inspiring and something that I probably got caught up with. Okay. And then we actually do have one more. It's The Loving Reaper by Jenny Jinya. Jenny Jinya makes me cry every time they post. They make me sob, and they have effectively ruined my life because I just cry all the time. So Jenny Jinya's work is specifically about her character, the Loving Reaper, as they help animals who have suffered bad experiences and abuse pass on and experience love on the other side. And almost all of Jenny Jinya's graphic novels, which, can we find one that's not super depressing? Of course it's the elephant. Sea elephant. A lot of it is about us being better humans, and it's focused on advocating for animals and going against the practices that are hurting animals today. Now, I got my degree in botany, but I love animals, and I have a lot of rescue cats. A lot of my animals are rescued. They're chronically ill, and it's painful. And knowing just how much horrible stuff happens in the world to other animals and mistreatment and people who are uneducated on how to take care of animals such as the graphic novel about somebody setting their pet turtle free just because, oh, it's a turtle, it'll be fine in the wild. It won't be. Their work is on educating people of bad practices and unethical animal treatment, and they do it in a way that is about the animal and going to the other side. So we're not actively seeing the harm most of the time, and if so, it is done in a way that is easy to digest and accessible for people even as sensitive as me. I do cry. She makes me cry. But it's important because there are petitions for changing these things and for being better for animals, and by ignoring it as an animal lover, I'm not going to make a change that saves the animals' lives, right? And so her work is something I always support because I feel like her mission as an artist is incredibly consuming and very heart-wrenching. Like, the work she does, educating people, she has to learn a lot of horrible information and see a lot of horrible things to do the research and get the facts for her graphic novels. And they always have a call to action. So, really, I love her work. I always support her. I'm going to be buying her next book as well. It should be coming out soon in America, or it's like coming out around now. I just recently started my job again, so I can set aside the money for that. So I always support her work because I highly support what she does. And this book makes me cry. So yeah, depression. We love it. Okay, now we're going to go to my top 4 art books of all time. It's a stack of 4, guys, don't worry. This book is not at my desk because I am scared it would get sun bleached, and Dominic Mayer's work is among the most inspirational art ever to me. And I love Dominic Mayer's work. I backed this on Kickstarter because I love Dominic Mayer's work. I have kept this fold out that is not embedded in the work in the book because I don't have anywhere I feel safe hanging it up. But Dominic Mayer's work uses color palettes and painterly effects to just make some of the most remarkable, beautiful work I have ever seen. This is a piece that was done for Wizards of the Coast, so it is probably in Magic the Gathering somewhere. I love his work so much. I love Dominic Mayer's work so much. Like, I don't have words. Like, these are the books that I love above loving, and I love the art of. This is just, like, my greatest inspiration in the entire world. Like, I wish I could have a painterly effect that spoke volumes the way that Mayer's work does. And so there really isn't anything to say except that this book is basically the book of my idol. And I love it. So I am kind of scared. I feel like the pages in this are a little looser than others. A lot of Mayer's work is from or for Wizards of the Coast. Wizards of the Coast. Wizards and the Coast. I get it mixed up, man. My partner is the D&D Magic the Gathering person. I just play the online card game. So you probably recognize his work or have seen it somewhere and just didn't know it. It's a very thick book. I really, really like their work. I aspire to be able to utilize color in a way that is so strong one day. Like, that's my goal, is to be able to use color as powerfully as Dominic Mayer and the dark fantasy. That's like, the best of the best. Okay. Inspired by Nature, a guide to designing botanical characters. I actually just recently got this book. Once again, by recently, I mean I got it this year, which is recently for me, because I've been collecting art books longer than I have been an artist. So, I really, really, really like the way that this approaches breaking down information in a way that we love. Also, Mushroom Girls by Feeful, as always. Feeful is my god. So, fungi research. Really, 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 really like how this book approaches being educational and based in botany as a botany person, and that approaching character design in a way that is super interesting and goes through a variety of styles, a variety of different coloring, personality. I love it. This book is super, super fun. It is almost entirely based in me using this for inspiration. It's less about, I love the art, but it's less about loving the art and finding ways to be more creative in my character design. So this book is super, super helpful. I find it incredibly inspirational. As always, 3D Total Publishing publishes basically everything I own for some reason. Okay, Lord Gris. The Art Journey of Lord Gris. I actually kept the dust jacket, which I only do if I really, really like the dust jacket and the artist. You have to meet both criteria. Otherwise, the dust jacket. So if I really like the dust jacket, but I don't really care about it being with the book, I will cut the art and deconstruct it and make it a print for my wall. Lord Gris is probably the artist who made me realize that being an artist was the coolest thing in the entire world. This is one of the first artists that I ever followed on social media, along with Feeful being my botanical artist illustration and being more creative and tying my love for everything together. This is how I actually found my push to just be an artist. You can do it. You can create. And I think it's because Lord Gris is incredibly transparent about their beginning work. And I really appreciate somebody who has just a willingness to be super transparent. And it's part of why I am so honest about my artistic background. And I share a lot of my bad work that I'm not proud of. Because I just don't really feel like we should gatekeep. And so I'm very comfortable sharing my bad work and my bad art weeks because it's what made me feel confident being an artist, and I got that confidence from Lord Gris being transparent with their experience. So this is going to take me 30 years to get back in the dust jacket, or is it going to be good? It's going to take me 30 years. So, I did it. Yeah, I almost never do that. Last one is the Art of Arcane, the art and making of Arcane, which is going to probably be reflecting weird light. That is part of my carpet. It does shed, because this dust jacket is a nightmare. It is plastic. So this is what it looks like under. Dust jacket makes it all pink. Very, very pretty. I very much like it. And this is because the Art of Arcane is, like many artists, one of my modern inspirations for art, right? I really love the painterly style. I think it does an excellent job. And I have a lot of art of books because I really, really, really like them. I have an entire video talking about why I love this book and how I'm utilizing it to better educate myself creatively. So I really, really, really like this book. I have an entire video on it. However, I will be linking a video where I actually make art in the cards and probably linking this one in the description, because I'm an art channel and I don't talk about art books every week, so I should probably direct you to me creating art rather than talking about books more. So there is that. And so I think that is all I have to say. My phone lasted a lot longer than I expected, but it did inevitably die, so I am now wearing a sweater because I went and put the chickens up while it charged, but I'm not entirely sure what was visually cut out from the Art of Arcane, but I will record some B-roll. That's why it looked funny. I know you're hearing this after the ugly B-roll, but long story short, I own a lot of art books because, one, I have been in art education for a while now. I'm getting my master's degree because you need it to teach college art, so yay. So I bought a lot of books for classes and to improve my experience, but I also started as a self-taught artist, and so that is why I own a lot of the art books that I do own, and a lot of these I've owned longer than I've been in real college. I took community college classes in high school, so most of these I own from high school, but not art college, which started when I was 17 and a half, 18-ish. So, long story short, I own a lot of books because I've been collecting them for a really long time. I've been gifted a lot of art books because people say, I don't know what to get you, but you're an artist. And I'm very picky about my art supplies, and I make it very clear that I really don't like people, like, buying me art supplies unless they specifically ask what I want. Hi, Smudge. Welcome to the crew. Unless I specifically say, oh, I want this. So, usually art books are their go-to. Okay, I invited you, but do not shove your tail in my mouth. So, naturally, I get a lot of books from that. I've unhauled a lot of books over the years as well. And, frankly, this is just a passion of mine. I read a lot. I was a reader before I was an artist. So, collecting books, it kind of was just natural to progress to collecting art books and then being an artist. Like, that was a natural progression for me as an individual. So, just saying, I own a lot of books because I've been collecting for over a decade. I've been collecting since I was in my early teens. I've been reading manga even longer. So, if you want a video on my favorite manga for art inspiration, let me know. I can definitely do that. I have a top 5 already. It would probably be a short. And then if you want to know more of the art books I own but did not make it into this video, also let me know, because I definitely have a lot that didn't make it in, whether they be art workbooks, artists that I just don't reference very often, art of, so I have Art of House Moving Castle and Art of Spirited Away. So if you want to know more about those, let me know and I can tell you about them either in the comments, a YouTube short, something like that. But I've yapped a lot. I'm actually an artist, not an art book collector, I swear. So if you want to see my art, I recommend looking at the videos in the playlist that I will have in the card below, above, not below, and checking out my channel. But this is just to know about me, my art inspiration, because I think your inspiration is one of the really important things about learning about somebody as an artist. And so the art you consume influences the art that you make. So this is also a deep dive into who I am as an artist outside of the actual artistic making process. So I hope you learned about me and why I'm influenced to make the art I make in this video, whether it is like deep psychoanalyzing me through the screen or what. But I really appreciate it. Like this video if you like it, dislike if you dislike. Let me know if you have art books you think I should check out. Let me know your favorites from the video. If you have any questions about them, let me know. I will talk about it whenever. But I think that's plenty. My phone's gonna die again, because I only charged it to 6%. So I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, night, wherever you are. And with all of this being said, bye-bye!